Assalamu alaikum. In today's session, we are going to discuss the new classical growth model, which was promulgated by Robert Solow, and because of this particular growth model, he was given the Nobel Prize in economics. And before I explain the model in front of you, firstly I'm going to reconnect some basics, and I'm going to reconnect this model with the previous one which we discussed earlier, and that is known as the Harrod-Domer growth model. So probably if you can recall, that particular growth model was presented by two different development economists. One was Harrod and the other was Domer, and because they reached at the same conclusion and they emphasized on the role played by the increase in the saving rate and the productivity of the capital in an economy, and that according to them contribute towards increasing the growth rate in an economy. So I'm going to reconnect that particular thing with this model, because this is something which is considered to be an advancement over that model. So as long as that Harrod-Domer's model is concerned, Harrod pointed out three different types of growth rate according to this model which we discussed earlier. So in this growth model, the Harrod specified that there is this the actual growth rate, which can be abbreviated as small g. Then there is this warranted growth rate, which is abbreviated as GW. And then there is this third type of growth rate, which is called the natural growth rate. So as long as this the actual growth rate is concerned, we derive the relationship as equivalent to delta y over y is equivalent to this S over C, where this S is the saving ratio, or we can define it as the proportion of the total income which an individual saves. So as a macroeconomic variable, the entire economy is saving what proportion of the total income is given by this small s, and it is in fact the ratio of the proportion of the total income which is saved by people on the whole in a country. And as long as this C is concerned, this C was defined as the capital output ratio, and it also gives us a measure of the productivity of capital utilization in an economy. So as long as the actual growth rate according to Harrod is concerned, this can be given by this particular relationship. Then he pointed out this warranted growth rate. So as long as the warranted growth rate is concerned, it is defined as the rate of growth which is required for the full utilization of the growing stock of capital, and in other words, that is the amount of money which should be equivalent to the planned saving, and this is taken up as the investment. So warranted growth rate will be the growth rate, the desired growth rate which we want to be there in an economy, so that whatever increment of capital accumulation is taking place in an economy in the form of new investments, it should be absorbing that addition in the total investment. So this particular thing can be equated to something which ensures that I becomes equivalent to the CR times the change in Y. So remember the difference I mentioned, that this is the growth rate which is defined as delta Y over Y, whereas if we are exclusively taking into account only the delta Y, that means the change in Y. So if we divide this change in Y by another Y, it will become the growth rate or the proportionate change in Y, due to some variable which we can account for as one of the variables that is pushing it, or the independent variable. So over here I've established a relationship which says that the warranted growth rate is that growth rate which we want or desire to be there, so that this CR delta Y becomes equivalent to the total investment. So as long as this CR is concerned, this is something which is related to this one. So this C is the actual capital output ratio. However, this CR, as you can see, this R is attached with this C. That means the required capital output, required C or CR is this required capital output ratio. So that type of required value of K over Y, which when multiplied by delta Y becomes equivalent to the total investment, will assure a certain growth rate in an economy, and that particular growth rate is known as the warranted growth rate. Then I'm moving on to the description or the explanation of the natural growth rate. So as long as this particular thing is defined, we say that this is the growth rate with which the labor force and the technological progress is taking place. So it is the sum of increase or growth in the labor force plus the growth in the technology or the improvements in the technology. Together they will make up this GN. So as long as the Herod's growth model is concerned, it talks about this particular growth rate, that certain economies growth rate can be explained in terms of this particular relationship, but since the desired ratio, the desired growth rate is this one, and there is this thing also which needs to be accounted for, although we do not see any explanation, explicit explanation that is given by Herod explaining the increment of labor force and the growth in terms of the technological innovations on the overall growth process. We see later developments in which these things have been accounted for, but since I am moving further towards the new classical growth model, it is necessary to understand these three things, because we will be applying these concepts when I will be explaining the Solow's growth model. Well, so before I proceed further, it is important to note down that it is in an economy, when we talk in real terms, it is not necessary that the actual growth rate becomes exactly equivalent to the desired or the warranted growth rate. There may be a possibility that the actual growth rate is larger than the warranted growth rate. In this case, the capital output ratio will be smaller than the required or the desired capital output ratio, and as a result of this there will be a shortage of capital equipment, and in this case investment in the economy will be encouraged. Because of this particular inequality. Similarly, there may be a second possibility that the actual growth rate, instead of being larger than the warranted growth rate, is smaller than the warranted growth rate. So in this case, we will see that the actual capital output ratio becomes larger than the desired or the required capital output ratio, and that will result surplus of capital equipment, and in this kind of a situation, the investment will be discouraged. So people will find that there is a lot of capital equipment already present and we need to get rid of it, and that is going to bring in some sort of pessimism as well. So these are the two possibilities in which we see that either it can be, the actual growth rate can be larger than the warranted growth rate, or it can be smaller than the warranted growth rate. In addition to that, there may be a possibility that the actual growth rate becomes larger than or smaller than the natural growth rate. So then again there will be some sort of variations in the economy taking place, and that these kinds of inequalities also result in terms of the cyclical fluctuations that can take place in an economy, and we see that sometimes the economies are moving in upward direction in terms of their macroeconomic variables, and sometimes we see that they start moving downwards. So we see some sort of cyclical fluctuation type of movement in an economy when we look at their macroeconomic variables. So these are the major reasons that actually result in these cyclical fluctuations that take place in an economy, and that this can be explained by the differences between these three types of growth rates. As long as the difference between the warranted growth rate and the natural growth rate is concerned, I'm just going to explain it to you later. But before that, there is another important thing which we need to know, and that is that there may be a possibility, fortunately or luckily, an economy can experience a situation, or ideally we can say that there may exist a situation in which the actual growth rate becomes equivalent to the warranted growth rate, which in fact becomes equivalent to the natural growth rate. So this type of a situation can be an idealized, that it can happen in long run, that if the growth in the labor force plus the technological growth becomes equivalent to the desired growth rate which we want to have in an economy, so that whatever addition of investment which is taking place in an economy gets nicely absorbed in the economy, and then whatever is actually going on. So if we are dealing with a situation that may happen in the long run in an economy, that these three growth rates become equivalent to one another, this particular equality was identified by a very famous Cambridge economist Joanne Robinson as the golden age. So the golden age time era can be achieved if we have such a brilliant combination where these three growth rates become equivalent to one another. So I'm switching over to the next thing, in which we are going to see that if there is a difference in terms of the natural growth rate and the warranted growth rate, what will be the consequences of that, as that can happen, and it is something which is very realistic as well. So we can never be in an ideal situation in which these three growth rates turn out to be exactly the same in an economy, or if they turn out to be exactly the same, they are going to stay there for all times to come. So again, this is something which is not possible. So commonly we observe that in the developing countries in particular, we see that the natural growth rate is larger than the warranted growth rate, right? There may be a possibility that the natural growth rate is smaller than the warranted growth rate, but in the developing countries particularly, we observe that the growth rate in the labor force and the technological changes, that this kind of a thing which is given on the left hand side is mostly in most of the developing countries is larger as compared to the desired or the warranted growth rate. So this kind of a situation, if is there, then that needs to be dealt with carefully, and there are certain things which we can apply in order to control this or in order to reduce this inequality, and make the two things, make the two sides equal to one another. So this can be illustrated in the form of a diagram in which I am taking the growth rates, both these growth rates along the vertical axis, and I'm taking the saving ratio and the investment ratio along the x-axis. So suppose as we can see that in the context of developing countries, the saving ratios are always fixed in the short run. So we see that it is given by a vertical straight line, and then I'm saying that suppose this straight line gives you the curve that tells us about the investment ratio. So as growth takes place, the investment ratio increases, and we see that there is a positive relationship between the two. Suppose the slope of this investment ratio curve is given by 1 over CR, where CR is the desired capital output ratio, and we see that suppose this is the natural growth rate, and somewhere over here is the warranted growth rate, right? So we see that the warranted growth rate is intersecting both the saving ratio and the investment ratio at this particular point. So ideally, the warranted growth rate should be this much, or the growth rate should be this much. But when we look at or account for the increase in the labor force, and we know that because of a very large or high growth rate in the population in the developing countries, the labor force also gets relatively bigger, and that may contribute towards an increase in the natural growth rate in an economy. So we see that the natural growth rate at a certain point is larger as compared to the warranted growth rate. Suppose we are talking about, we are comparing point A with point B. So we can see that the warranted growth rate is smaller and the natural growth rate is larger, and this inequality is being observed over here. As we can see that, as I've just mentioned, that this normally, most of the cases in developing countries, we observe this kind of an inequality. So there are certain measures that can be followed or that can be implemented in order to overcome this inequality and to make the two things equivalent. So the first thing which we can try is that we can obviously reduce the rate of growth of population, and that will certainly help us in reducing the growth rate of the labor force. So this will help us in reducing this GN down, and we will try to assure that the two things become equivalent to one another. Another important thing is that the labor productivity, which is not a good idea, although but as long as this inequality is concerned, and we want, and if somebody is interested or the government is interested in reducing the gap between the two growth rates, then it is again can be doable that if we reduce the productivity of the labor force, the gap can be reduced or can be minimized. Another important thing that can be implemented is to increase the saving ratio, and with that we can shift this saving ratio curve forwards, and this can be done by implementing, in other words, I'm just putting this arrowhead just to specify that the saving ratio curve can be shifted towards the right hand side, and this can be done by implementing the monetary and the fiscal policies, plus the fiscal policy is there that can help us in shifting this thing forwards, and that will help us in achieving or reducing the gap between these two growth rates. Secondly, what we can do is we can go for some advancements in terms of the technological innovations that are labor intensive, and that can also help us in reducing the capital output ratio. So by reducing the capital output ratio, we can see that this particular thing can be tilted backwards. So if this thing gets tilted backwards, the saving ratio curve is moved forwards, the gap between these two growth rates can be minimized, and this is how we can achieve in an economy the desired or the warranted growth rate. The next thing which I'm going to discuss with you is something which is where we are going to use all these concepts and see that what is the difference between Harrod and Domer's growth model with the Solow's growth model, and what actually Solow's growth model is all about. So if we look at the details and the assumptions that are made by Solow in order to explain the growth model, it is essential to see that it is there are certain basic things that separate the Solow's growth model from the Harrod-Domer's growth model or from the other growth models which we have discussed earlier. So to illustrate it or to make it simple, Solow has explained the model in terms of a production function. So if we look at the breakup or the model, right over here you can see that this entire production function can be explained in the form of a Cobb-Douglas production function. So the model which you are seeing right now is given as yt is equal to kt alpha dot at multiplied by lt whole raised to the power 1 minus alpha. I'm just going to explain the components to you, that what each of these things mean. So if we write down the equation, the production function equation or the total income equation as yt equals to k, which is a function of t raised to the power alpha, dot a, which is again a function of t, l, which is again assumed to be a function of t, and whole of these two are raised to the power 1 minus alpha. You must be wondering why I have written t's everywhere, right? So it is important to note down that since we are dealing with the growth process, और growth जो है वो time के बिना नहीं हो सकता. So growth in an economy, ख्वाह वो कैसी भी हो, it all depends upon, it varies, the growth of an economy or the income of an economy varies over time. So since the income, the capital, the productivity of labor and the labor force, all these things are going to vary in terms of time या over time. So therefore हमने सभी के साथ में एक टाइम स्क्रिप्ट लगाई है बताने के वास्ते कि these are functions or dependent upon time period. Then over here I've taken into account two factor inputs. One is the capital factor input and the other is a labor factor input. So we all know that output majorly depends upon the two very frequently considered as the variable factor inputs. So अभी यहाँ capital और labor लिया गया है, and जिस proportion से या जो elasticity है जिसके हिसाब से आप income को produce करने के वास्ते capital input किस proportion के साथ लेने जा रहे हैं, that will be given by this alpha, and the proportion with which L or the labor force is being accounted for in order to produce a certain units of output will be given by 1 minus alpha. So right over here we have clubbed these two together, या आपके पास जो अल्फा ए का टर्म है वो एल के साथ में माइनस हो रही है. So we see that this is the productivity of the labor force, and the labor force and productivity both are going to vary or change over time, and this is 1 minus alpha is the elasticity. So I'm just going to briefly discuss what is meant by this alpha and 1 minus alpha. So alpha is basically the proportionate or the percentage change in income due to the percentage change in capital input. So एक capital input के या कुछ एक परसेंटेज चेंज अगर हम कैपिटल इनपुट में करेंगे, उससे टोटल आउटपुट में कितना परसेंट चेंज होगा या वेरिएशन आएगा कैपिटल इनपुट के बदलने से बाय इंक्रीजिंग 1% ऑफ कैपिटल इनपुट, दैट इज मेजर्ड बाय दिस अल्फा, एंड दैट टेल्स यू अबाउट द प्रोपोर्शन इन विच दिस कैपिटल एंड लेबर आर गोइंग टू बी यूज्ड रिस्पेक्टिवली. सिमिलरली बिकॉज अल्फा टेल्स यू अबाउट दिस थिंग इन टर्म्स ऑफ कैपिटल, सिमिलरली हमारे पास 1 माइनस अल्फा बताएगा कितना कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन है, किस proportion से लेबर इस्तेमाल होने जा रहा है in the total output या in the total production of the total income which is being produced in an economy. So we are assuming Solow के accordingly, Solow ने assume किया कि the entire production function is subject to constant returns to scale CRS, whereas when we account for only the capital factor input or the labor factor input, they are subject to diminishing returns. So इसका मतलब ये है कि जब हम capital को बढ़ाएंगे तो हर एक additional unit of increment in capital की वजह से जो total output में आपको increment देखने को मिलेगा वो gradually slow down या कम होता चला जाएगा. Same would be in the case of labor force, but when we are going to account for the entire production function altogether, then it is subject to constant returns to scale, and this particular thing can also be written in terms of if we introduce a certain parametric constant gamma और उसको इस पूरी की पूरी equation के साथ multiply कर दें, where we are assuming that the total output or the total production function is a function of capital and labor as we have seen here, right? So अगर हम इस production function को gamma कोई parametric constant के साथ में multiply कर दें, तो since we have assumed that the production function is subject to constant returns to scale, ये सभी तीनों variables के साथ में multiply हो जाएगा, and this equation then can be written as gamma y is equivalent to the function of gamma k, gamma. So for the simplicity's sake, we are assuming that let gamma is equivalent to 1 over L, right? So we have just assumed that suppose this gamma is equivalent to 1 over L. Why we are assuming this? इससे हमें ये फायदा होगा कि हम चूंकि हमने gamma के साथ y को multiply किया है, so अगर हम gamma की value को 1 over L assume करते हैं और इसको इस पूरी equation में डाल के देखते हैं, तो आपके पास जो total output है ये output per labor हो जाएगी. So that is the advantage of assuming gamma equivalent to 1 over L. So upon assuming this, we plug this information in this equation. So upon doing that, we get y, since this gamma is equivalent to 1 over L, so हम इसको लिख सकते हैं y over L equals to a function of, ये वैसा ही रहने जा रहा है. So as a functional notation मैंने capital F की बजाय यहाँ small f लिख दिया है. So this gamma is obviously 1 over L, so हमें यहाँ मिलेगी capital divided by 1 over L, यानी कि capital divided by L, and similarly comma, this gamma is 1 over L, so 1 over L multiplied by L will give you a 1. So if we write it in the simpler form, हम assume अगर करें कि suppose अगर हम income per labor factor input को assume करते हैं as y, small y, fine. So this whole thing can then be written as a small y, which is output per labor, is equivalent to a function of, यहाँ 1 है, ये capital labor ratio आ गई है, so we can write this thing down as a small k. So this becomes really simple for us to understand according to the Solow's growth model, that in Solow's growth model, output per labor is a function of capital labor ratio. Remember हमने जब हेरोडोमा डिस्कस किया था तो वहाँ हम small c ले रहे थे as capital output ratio. So because small c was in the denominator, तो हम उसको, if suppose I'm just reconnecting this thing with the previous one, हमने लिखा था growth rate the actual growth rate y, delta y over y is equivalent to small s over small c, where this small c is equivalent to capital output ratio. So this small c, since this falls in the denominator, therefore हम इसको यहाँ अगर हम ग्रोथ रेट के साथ में स्मॉल सी का रिलेशनशिप देखें तो ग्रोथ रेट इज इक्वलेंट टू 1 over c, which can also be written as y over k dot s, the saving ratio, right? So ये वाला चीज मैंने यहाँ डाली है. Anyways, so this thing can also be written as y divided by k, and this gives you a measure of productivity. So this was Harrod-Domer model. अभी हम क्या कर रहे हैं? We are talking about the capital labor ratio, but we need to remember, आपको याद रखना चाहिए जब हम Harrod-Domer मॉडल डिस्कस कर रहे थे उसमें हमने कैपिटल आउटपुट रेशो की बात की थी. अभी हम कैपिटल आउटपुट रेशो की बात नहीं कर रहे. दिस इज सोलोज ग्रोथ मॉडल एंड इन दिस वी आर टॉकिंग इन टर्म्स ऑफ द कैपिटल लेबर रेशो. सो अकॉर्डिंग टू द सोलोज ग्रोथ मॉडल, द प्रोडक्शन फंक्शन in an economy या आपका जो income per labor है, that depends upon just one thing, and that one thing which has been abbreviated here as small k, and this k is equivalent to the capital labor ratio. So आपको एक यूनिट ऑफ आउटपुट को प्रोड्यूस करने के लिए कितना कैपिटल, किस प्रोपोर्शन में कैपिटल, किस प्रोपोर्शन में लेबर चाहिए, दैट इज गोइंग टू डिटरमिन व्हाट इज गोइंग टू बी द टोटल आउटपुट व्हिच यू आर गोइंग टू प्रोड्यूस. सो इफ वी एक्सप्रेस द सेम थिंग in the form of a very simple Cobb-Douglas production function, the same thing can be written as y equals to a, which is the productivity parameter, times the capital labor ratio raised to the power alpha. So this can be expressed in the form of a very simple Cobb-Douglas production function. और अगर हम देखें कि what is going to be the change in the capital labor ratio, that is measured by this delta k. So जब भी हम कभी भी मैथमेटिक्स में चेंज निकालना चाहते हैं किसी भी वेरिएबल का तो हम उसका डेल्टा ले लेते हैं, and this delta is simply the new value of capital labor ratio minus the old value. So in other words, this is k2 minus k1 and this will give you delta k. So अभी मैं यहाँ delta k लेने जा रही हूँ, and according to Solow, this change in the capital labor ratio depends upon a number of things, and those number of things include 3 factors. और वो क्या चीजें हैं? सबसे पहले it depends upon the saving ratio which we discussed earlier in the Harrod-Domer model, और saving ratio depend करती है capital labor ratio के ऊपर. So the change in the capital labor ratio is equivalent to the total saving which you are going to make, and this something will be subtracted out of it that will take a negative toll on this increase in the capital labor ratio, and that would be the depreciation times the capital labor ratio. And there is another thing which is the increase in the labor force times the capital labor ratio, which are going to have a negative impact on this. So the capital labor ratio will change because of the increase in the saving, and it will go down because of the depreciation times the capital labor ratio minus the increment in the labor force. So this particular thing can further be simplified or written as, by taking this capital labor ratio common, we can write this thing down as S is a function of capital labor ratio minus delta plus n. में से मैंने common निकाली है this capital labor ratio. So we can see that we can explain the change in the capital labor ratio, which in fact is going to determine why we are interested in finding out the change in the capital labor ratio. वजह के हमने अभी determine किया according to Solow's growth model that the income per labor is a function of capital labor ratio. So the change in the capital labor ratio is dependent upon 2 major things. One is the total savings, which in fact depends upon the capital labor ratio, and the depreciation plus the increase in the labor force. So हम अगर डिस्कस करना चाहते हैं या देखना चाहते हैं कि स्टेडी स्टेट के अंदर जब हम देखते हैं कि कैपिटल लेबर रेशियो और इनकम आपका कांस्टेंट हो जाता है, तो उस वक्त आपकी जो इकोनॉमी है उसकी सिचुएशन को अगर हम एक्सप्लेन करना चाहें तो व्हाट आर द इंपॉर्टेंट वेरिएबल्स एंड हाउ दिस पर्टिकुलर रिलेशनशिप ऑफ स्टेडी स्टेट कैन बी एक्सप्लेन. सो स्टेडी स्टेट, आई एम रिपीटिंग इट, स्टेडी स्टेट का मतलब है अ स्टेट इन एन इकोनॉमी जब आपका कैपिटल लेबर रेशियो और इनकम ये दोनों चीजें कांस्टेंट हैं, तो दैट टाइप ऑफ अ सिचुएशन इन एन इकोनॉमी इन टर्म्स ऑफ द ग्रोथ economics is called the steady state economy. So if we are interested in knowing the steady state economy, then we say that delta k को हम रखेंगे यहाँ इसी क्वेश्चन में जो अभी आपने देखी equivalent to 0, because we are assuming that capital labor ratio is constant when we are interested in knowing the steady state. So steady state के लिए delta k को हमने रखा 0, तो then this last equation will be written as the saving thing minus delta plus n times the capital labor ratio. So अगर हम delta k को 0 रख रहे हैं तो then you can solve these two things by taking the negative term on the other side of the equality, and this will result in the two things being equivalent, and you can see that this thing can be expressed in terms of the total savings that are taking place in an economy if when become equivalent to the depreciation plus the increase in the growth in the labor force multiplied by the capital output ratio. When these two things balance out or become equivalent to one another, we say that the economy is said to be in a steady state. So I'm just going to discuss the same in terms of a diagram with you, and if you see the diagram right now which is being displayed in front of you, this is a diagram which illustrates the equilibrium in the Solow's growth model. So here, as you can see, we have taken the production function along the vertical axis, and we just derived earlier on board that the total output or the production function in an economy depends upon just one thing, and that is the capital labor ratio. So as you can see in this diagram, on the vertical axis आपको देखने को मिलेगा y is a function of small k लिखा हुआ है, and that small k indicates the capital labor ratio. However, on the horizontal axis or the x-axis, you would be able to see the capital labor ratio has been accounted for. So उसमें आपको एक जो dotted line से curve देखने को मिल रही है, that is a production function, जो कि conventional आपने microeconomics में भी पढ़ा हुआ है, macroeconomics में भी पढ़ा हुआ है. So this is the conventional production function which says that जैसे capital labor ratio बढ़ता चला जाएगा वैसे वैसे आपका total output increase करता चला जाएगा. So then you will see in the bottom there are two curves in addition to the total output curve. एक कर्व आपको बता रहा है सेविंग फंक्शन, जो कि एज वी कैन सी कैपिटल लेबर रेशो के साथ में पॉजिटिव रिलेशनशिप दिखा रही है वो, और आपको देखने को मिलेगा कि कैपिटल लेबर रेशो जैसे जैसे इंक्रीज करती है वैसे वैसे हमारे सेविंग्स बढ़ते चले जा रहे हैं. एंड यू कैन सी दैट दिस कर्व इनिशियली स्लाइटली इज बिकम्स कॉन्वेक्स विद रिस्पेक्ट टू एक्स एक्सिस एंड देन इट टेपर्स डाउन, वो फिर नीचे फॉल करना शुरू कर देता है. एंड इन एडिशन टू दैट देयर इज दिस थर्ड कर्व जो कि आपको लेबर फोर्स का ग्रोथ रेट और डेप्रिसिएशन की अमाउंट बता रहा है. अगैन दिस इज इन रिलेशन विद द टोटल कैपिटल लेबर रेशो. सो आपको ये स्ट्रेट लाइन देखने को मिल रही है विच इज पॉजिटिवली स्लोपिंग. सो इफ यू कैन सी के वी हैव लेबल्ड हियर लेवल ऑफ कैपिटल लेबर रेशो मेंशन्ड एज के स्टार, और के स्टारिक के तौर पे आपको यहाँ लेबल हुआ हुआ एक के की वैल्यू नजर आ रही है. सो कॉरेस्पॉन्डिंग टू दिस लेवल वी सी दैट the two things are equivalent. अभी जो हमने डिस्कस किया that if we are interested in finding out the steady state, we need to assume that delta k is equivalent to 0, and as a result what we see is that the net savings or the total savings we have become equivalent to the leakages which we have assumed to be there. एक हमने लीकेज रखा था कि लेबर फोर्स इंक्रीज करी है जिसको एब्जॉर्ब करने के लिए आपको पैसे चाहिए, प्लस आप साथ ही में जो आपके कैपिटल इक्विपमेंट है, कैपिटल एसेट्स हैं, वो डेप्रिसिएट कर रहे हैं. सो दैट नीड्स टू बी अकाउंटेड फॉर. जैसे जैसे आपका कैपिटल लेबर रेशियो इंक्रीज कर रहा है वो भी increase कर रहे हैं. So initially we see that before the K star level is achieved, the saving function is higher than this labor function. So right over here we see that the savings are greater than the leakages. जो आपकी जो utility है, usage हो रहा है उस money का, that is smaller as compared to the total savings which are given by S, which is a function of K in here. जो curve आपको मिलेगा शुरू में K star से पहले, saving function is higher than the labor force function. So यहाँ पे this indicates that since the people are accumulating more money or saving more money, so as a result of this particular activity, the capital labor ratio will increase and the economy will move towards K star level. Eventually a point will come where the two things become equivalent to one another and the steady state equilibrium is achieved. On the other hand, if we move from, instead of moving from left to right towards, from origin towards K star level of capital labor ratio, अगर हम right से left की तरफ move करते हैं towards K star level, तो we see that if we move from right to left, the saving function is below then the labor force and the depreciation function. So there we see that it is observed that total savings or the amount which is being saved by the people living in an economy is smaller as what is required. So as a result of this, the capital labor ratio will fall down and eventually we will reach a level where the two things become equivalent to one another, and once again the steady state will be achieved in the economy, or or in other words we can say that the equilibrium will be achieved in an economy. So this is how the growth model of Solow can be explained in terms of the steady state. Right over here I am showing you another diagram. Here if we are assuming a certain situation, suppose if the entire economy decides to save a bit more money, or we see that over time the saving rate or the saving ratio goes up. So that would result in an upward shift in the saving function, as you can see, and this is being shown in terms of this dotted line जो कि slightly above है previous आपके saving function से. So this would result in an overall increment in the steady state capital labor ratio level, and the equilibrium will be obtained at a higher level of capital labor ratio where people have now started saving more, and this will result in equality between the two things at corresponding to a higher level of capital output, capital labor ratio, which is given by K star prime. So this is what you can observe in this diagram, and as long as this particular model is concerned, as long as the technological innovations taking place or the consequences or how the productivity or the technological changes will take place, this particular thing has not been explained as long as the Solow's model is concerned, but still it is considered to be an overall improvement as if we compare these models which we have discussed earlier, particularly when we compare the findings of this model with the Herod and Domer's model. So another important thing is there that if we critically analyze the difference between the two models, the Herod and Domer model and the Solow's growth model, we see that Herod and Domer model emphasize on increase in the saving ratio as well as they go for the productivity enhancement. So they say that if the productivity increases, that will also contribute in increasing the growth rate in an economy. However, when we look at the growth model that has been promulgated by Solow's model, we observe that here they talk in terms of the steady state, and they account for very rightly that the factor inputs, both the capital and labor, are subject to the diminishing returns to scale, which is a bit more realistic. And since if we compare this particular aspect with the Herod-Domer's model, we need to see that there it was assumed that the production function and the labor factor inputs and the capital factor input all are subject to constant returns to scale. However, here it is a bit more realistic that we have assumed that both the factor inputs one by one, if taken one at a time, are subject to diminishing returns, which is a contribution. Plus we also see that it tells us about how the economy's growth rate can be increased or can be reached at a level where we can ensure the steady state equilibrium level, is that when we take into account the money which is needed to absorb the increase in the labor force also, which is also not present in the Herod-Domer's model. So this is another contribution made by Solow's growth model. The next thing which I am going to discuss with you is another very interesting topic, and that is called the endogenous growth theory. Why the theory is called endogenous? Let me explain to you. So as long as the Solow's growth model is concerned, remember we discussed that we were assuming that the productivity of labor force is given, and we didn't discuss anything. We didn't discuss that these are the variables or this is how the productivity is going to change in the model. So since no such explanation of A, the productivity coefficient, was accounted for or given by Solow's growth model, and therefore we assume that A is going to be the same constant given, and we didn't change it in the model, or we didn't see any other factors that were affecting the value of A, and we took it as an exogenous factor. So therefore, because of this particular aspect, Solow's growth model is also known as the exogenous growth theory, or the new classical exogenous growth theory. But on the other hand, the thing which we are going to talk about now in detail, and that is something which seems to be a bit more realistic, is called the endogenous growth theory, in which we are going to account for this A as something which is changing, or that will change because of the factors that are already in there in the production function. So we would be once again taking the help of this production function which we used earlier, and we are going to see that the value of A will contribute, it will change, and it will contribute towards increase in the overall income, and hence the growth rate of an economy, and that will be because of the factors that are there. And we know the two major factors that explain a production function are the capital factor input and the labor factor input. So the two things are going to help us in understanding why there are variations in terms of growth rates in developing countries if we compare them. And again, we can also see that sometimes if we compare countries that have got almost similar setups, similar economic problems, or similar economic situations, still they behave in a different way, and the total product or the total output in these economies turn out to be altogether different from one another. So this particular aspect can be explained in terms of the model which we are going to discuss now. So as I've just mentioned, that the topic of this model or theory is the endogenous growth theory, and in this head we will be talking about the Romer's growth model. And as long as the motivation for this new growth theory is concerned, this is also known as the new growth theory. The entire focus behind rationalizing that we need to have a new theory, or the previous theories miss out this important aspect. It becomes the rationale behind coming up with this new concept or a new model. So the entire purpose behind coming up with this new thing falls on just one head, and that one head is called Solow's residual. So if you recall the production function which we have just accounted for, there we took into account capital which was raised to the power alpha, and labor factor input which was raised to the power 1 minus alpha. But at the same time we saw this A which was being multiplied by the factor input L, and that is something which can explain the impact of certain other things that are not explained by, or we can say that the variation in the total income which is not explained by capital in factor input and labor in factor input is explained by this A, and that contributes pretty significantly in certain situations. That sometimes you see that capital has gone up by, for example, 2%, and labor has also gone up by 2%, but we see that the total income has gone up by suppose 6% or 7%. So one might wonder कि ये जो इंक्रीमेंट है टोटल इनकम में, ऑल्दो कैपिटल और लेबर इस इंक्रीमेंट को एक्सप्लेन नहीं कर पा रहे, तो ये किस वजह से आया है. सो दैट पर्टिकुलर इफेक्ट इज कॉल्ड or termed as the Solow's residual. So हम इस A को या Solow's residual को नहीं एक्सप्लेन कर पा सकते अगर हम पुराने जितने भी हमने ग्रोथ मॉडल्स को डिस्कस किया है, अगर हम उनको एनालाइज करें, वहाँ कोई इस तरह का एक्सप्लेनेशन इज नॉट गिवन जो कि हमें A की वैल्यू को या Solow residual को एक्सप्लेन करता है. मगर अगर हम रियल टर्म्स में देखें तो नियरली ऑलमोस्ट 50% चेंज ग्रोथ ऑल अक्रॉस द वर्ल्ड वी ऑब्जर्व इज बिकॉज ऑफ दिस A. वो कैपिटल और लेबर की वजह से नहीं है. सो टुगेदर व्हाटएवर ग्रोथ हैज बीन अचीव्ड, इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ हैज बीन अचीव्ड इन द वर्ल्ड, by all the developing and the developed nations. अगर हम उनको उनके responsible ठहराएं कि ये किन factors की वजह से हुई है, तो nearly 50% can be contributed towards increase in the capital and labor factor inputs, but there is still this almost 50% of the total growth which is not being explained, which cannot be explained because of this increase in the capital and labor factor input, और उसको हम बोलते हैं that this variation or this improvement in the overall national output in the world can be held responsible because of this Solo's residual. ये हो सकता है कि आपके जो economies of scale हैं या increasing returns to scale हैं उनकी वजह से, या लोगों का जो learning curve के improve होने की वजह से, या लोगों के know how के बढ़ने की वजह से, या उनके experience की वजह से this can be contributed कि ये इस वजह से आपने increase in the overall growth rate को achieve करा है. So if you particularly look at the industrial nations, you would see that this big improvement in the overall growth or expansion can be accounted for A की वजह से है, जो अभी हमने productivity parameter को discuss करने जा रहे थे. So as long as the endogenous growth theory or the new growth theory is concerned, let me first define this growth theory and then I'm going to explain to you. So the definition is economic growth generated by factors within the production process that could be, for example, because of the increasing returns or the induced technological changes that can take place, and this particular thing studied in the context of a growth model. Therefore, we consider it as the endogenous growth model or the new growth theory. So, in other words or in simple words, हम कह रहे हैं कि there may be certain things that are there in a production function जो कि explain कर सकती हैं variation in variable y या overall growth के प्रोसेस को, और वो कैपिटल और लेबर की वजह से नहीं हो सकते, उनके पीछे कोई और वजह हो सकते हैं. जैसे अभी मैंने मेंशन किया दैट दे कुड बी बिकॉज ऑफ द इंक्रीजिंग रिटर्न्स, और देयर कुड बी सम सॉर्ट ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजिकल एडवांसमेंट्स जिनकी वजह से आप ने अपना आउटपुट को इंक्रीज किया है, एंड इट इज नॉट एक्सक्लूसिवली बिकॉज ऑफ द इंक्रीज और द वेरिएशन और द चेंजेस इन द कैपिटल एंड लेबर फैक्टर इनपुट्स. सो as long as the endogenous growth model is concerned, we see that there is this concept of technological spillovers. So let me explain कि technological spillover का क्या मतलब होता है. When we see that टेक्नोलॉजिकल इनोवेशंस या कोई भी टेक्नोलॉजिकल इम्प्रूवमेंट्स होते हैं, कभी भी हो रहे हैं किसी भी कॉन्टेक्स्ट में, किसी भी इंडस्ट्री में, तो वहाँ सिर्फ उस पर्टिकुलर पर्पस जिसके लिए वो टेक्नोलॉजी का इम्प्रूवमेंट डाला जाता है, उस पर्टिकुलर पर्पस को अचीव करने के साथ साथ आप देखते हैं कि देयर आर अ नंबर ऑफ डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ एक्सटर्नैलिटीज दैट कैन ऑल्सो हैपन बिकॉज ऑफ दैट इम्प्रूवमेंट्स इन द टेक्नोलॉजी. या आपने अगर कोई टेक्नोलॉजी को इम्पोर्ट किया है और उस टेक्नोलॉजी को सीखने के लिए, फॉर एग्जांपल आपको कंप्यूटर सीखना था, तो आपने उस टेक्नोलॉजी को एब्जॉर्ब करने के लिए या टेक्नोलॉजी को अप्लाई करने के लिए कंप्यूटर सीखा, मगर उस कंप्यूटर के नॉलेज ने आपको अपनी बाकी के सारे जिंदगी के कामों में आसानी पहुंचाई कि अब आप और बहुत सारे काम अदर देन दिस टास्क व्हिच हैज बीन गिवन टू यू, कि आपने अपनी नौकरी करने के लिए उस टेक्नोलॉजी को सीखा और उससे अपनी कोई डे टू डे एक्टिविटीज़ को या जो भी आपके काम के से रिलेटेड चीज़ें थी, आप उनको कंप्यूटर के थ्रू काम कर रहे थे. सो दिस इज द नॉलेज विच यू गेन बिकॉज ऑफ दैट इम्प्रूवमेंट इन द टेक्नोलॉजी. बट एज अ कॉन्सिक्वेंस ऑफ दैट, अगर आप अपने डे टू डे और एक्टिविटीज़ में अदर देन दिस पर्टिकुलर टास्क भी कंप्यूटर का इस्तेमाल करना शुरू कर देते हैं, और उसकी वजह से आपको कोई आसानी होना शुरू हो जाती है, आपका वक्त बच जाता है, आपके रिसोर्सेज कम यूटिलाइज होते हैं. तो दैट इज द स्पिल ओवर इफेक्ट. एंड द थिंग विच द एग्जाम्पल विच आई जस्ट गेव यू वॉज अ माइक्रो लेवल एग्जाम्पल. दिस कैन हैव अ बिगर इम्पैक्ट ऑन द ओवरऑल एक्सपेंशन ऑफ द इकोनॉमी एज वेल. सो हमने देखा कि व्हेन वी हैव टेक्नोलॉजिकल इम्प्रूवमेंट्स, द टेक्नोलॉजिकल इम्प्रूवमेंट्स हैव गॉट स्पिल ओवर इफेक्ट्स, एंड these kind of spillover effects can have a positive overall impact on the total output, and there may be a possibility that the total output in an economy increases many times more as compared to for example, हमने ज़्यादा पैसे लगा के अगर कोई टेक्नोलॉजी को बाय किया है, तो उससे आपकी जो टोटल इम्पैक्ट आएगी इम्प्रूवमेंट्स इन द टोटल इनकम के ऊपर, देयर मे बी अ पॉसिबिलिटी दैट यू सी अ relatively bigger impact on the overall improvement of your total income, and that can be explained partly because of that increase in the capital expenditure which you have made to buy that imported technology. But at the same time you saw that there are certain other advantages also which you have achieved because of that spillover effect. So that spillover effect can be explained or can be taken up as an example of increase in the overall productivity, as can be explained by this letter A जो हम अभी Solow's residual की बात कर रहे थे. So this thing can also be explained in terms of the knowledge कि हम again कभी capital stock किसी भी firm का बढ़ता है तो you start hiring more people and then you start giving them training, और जब आपने training दिया तो उससे उनका knowledge improve करेगा, and that knowledge is not essentially going to help you in exclusively increasing the total output. That may have a trickle down effect on a number of other things also. और हो सकता है कि आपके देखा देखी आपके जो कंपैटिटर्स हैं वो भी अपने लोगों को ट्रेनिंग देना शुरू कर दें और इनसे इनकी फैमिली बेनिफिट करी है या सोसाइटी के ऊपर इम्पैक्ट आएगी. सो ओवरऑल दिस विल कंट्रीब्यूट सिग्निफिकेंटली इन इंक्रीजिंग द टोटल आउटपुट ऑफ अ कंट्री. सो दिस थिंग कैन बी एक्सप्लेन इन टर्म्स ऑफ अ न्यूमेरिकल इक्वेशन which you can see right now. Again, endogenous growth model या Romer's growth model can also be explained in terms of a production function as we discussed in terms of the Solow's model. यहाँ आपको देखने को मिल रहा है that we have explained it again by using the Cobb-Douglas production function. You can see that this is yi equals to a multiplied by ki raised to the power alpha multiplied by li raised to the power 1 minus alpha, और साथ ही में आपको k के ऊपर एक बार देखने को मिल रही है which is raised to the power beta. So this is something which is an addition. आपने नोटिस किया होगा कि अभी तक हमने जितने भी एग्जांपल्स डिस्कस किए हैं प्रोडक्शन फंक्शन के या Cobb-Douglas प्रोडक्शन फंक्शन के, उसमें k bar was not there. So it is important here to understand what is meant by this k bar raised to the power beta. K bar is the economy wide capital stock. So इसको हम ले रहे हैं, जैसे अभी मैंने आपको बोला that whatever is happening in an economy that has got some positive spillover effects. There may be some negative spillover effects also, but अभी हम देख रहे हैं that there are some important technological improvements, or there may be some expansion in terms of knowledge or know-how or expertise, जिसकी वजह से आपके overall जो किसी भी individual firm की अगर आप output देखेंगे उसके ऊपर इन चीज़ों का impact आएगा, and that impact has been accounted for by this k bar raised to the power beta. So ये जो I subscripts देखने को मिल रहे हैं, they indicate that this production function is for a certain firm or an industry. But when we consolidate, हम assume कर रहे हैं कि symmetrical knowledge है, सभी लोगों के पास symmetrical factor inputs इस्तेमाल करते हैं, सब जो जितने भी firms हैं किसी भी economy में, वो अगर एक ही तरह के level का labor और एक ही तरह के level का capital इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं, तो all these firms and industries can be clubbed together और हम एक aggregate production function को develop कर सकते हैं, which can be written as y equals to a multiplied by k raised to the power alpha plus beta. Remember हमने पहले k bar लिया था, अभी हम उसकी पावर को alpha के साथ में add कर रहे हैं. So this is k raised to the power alpha plus beta multiplied by L raised to the power 1 minus alpha. So we have used calculus, हमने इसके ऊपर इसके time derivatives लिए हैं of this equation. If you take the derivative of variable y, पूरी की पूरी equation का derivative लें अगर आप variable y के derivative of variable y with respect to time, तो आपको growth rate के terms में information मिलेगी, and this can be solved for something which you can see right now, and this particular expression gives you the relationship between the growth rate and the growth rate of labor force. Growth rate of income, which is symbolized by small g, growth rate of labor force is given by small n. So आपको ये जो equation है देखने को मिल रहा है, that is explaining the growth rate of an economy according to the Romer's growth model, and we can see that g minus n is equivalent to beta times capital N divided by 1 minus alpha minus beta, and here you can see that the growth rate can be explained particularly अगर हमारे पास बीटा की वैल्यू पॉजिटिव है, which you can see ये कहाँ से आई थी, this is the coefficient of the economy wide capital stock. So अगर economy wide capital stock positively contribute करेगा, तो that will help us in improving the or increasing the growth rate over the growth rate of the labor force. So आपकी जो G minus N है, that can become positive only when G becomes larger than N, and that can be achieved when beta is positive. So अगर हम इस result को compare करें Solow growth model से, तो वहाँ हम beta को 0 assume कर रहे हैं. So there you can see that in terms of Solow's growth model, if beta is taken up as 0, then G minus N will become equivalent to 0, or in other words, we see that G will become equivalent to N, and this is what we see in Solow's growth model, that in the long run they see that there is no increase in the growth rate, it becomes constant in Solow's model. However, the increment can be in the growth rate can be explained by the Romer's growth model, and this is given by beta times n divided by 1 minus alpha minus beta, and जितनी बड़ी beta की value होगी उतना बड़ा G will be larger, उसी proportion से उसी हिसाब से G will be larger than this absorption rate small n, जो कि labor force के increase in the labor force को indicate कर रहा है. I am going to discuss the criticism on this endogenous growth theory, and there are three things that we need to understand for that. One is that the theory or the model assumes that all the sectors are symmetrical, whereas in the reality we see that no such symmetry is observed. If we look at the various sectors that constitute an economy, there are variations, and another important thing is that it assumes that there are allocational efficiencies, but actually in the real world we see that whenever we see some sort of increase in the productivity or increase in the or enhancement in the knowledge in one sector, that is not directly or equally passed on to all the different types of sectors. So we see that particularly in the developing countries there are allocational inefficiencies which may be ignored, because these things become very prominent when we take into account the short run analysis, and if we take into account the long term analysis as has been emphasized by this particular model, there we see that this particular aspect can be ignored. Another important thing which we need to know is that as long as the empirical studies have been conducted in order to see whether this particular Romer's growth model actually exists or can be explained by the development processes that are taking place in the real world and in the context of different countries, we observe that there are mixed type of findings, and like we don't see that most of the countries following exactly or replicating exactly what Romer growth model says. So we see that the predictive model of endogenous growth theories have a very limited support, and there are very few such incidents that actually support what has been identified by Romer in his growth model. Thank you.